muscles and movement, muscles and development. Okay, there's a huge misconception on muscles. Muscles don't create the movement, right? The skeletal system actually responds to the movement that's going on, and then the muscles respond around the skeletal system. But we're also adults, and we have to learn to process in the beginnings of movement, right? I've studied infant development almost like people have studied the Big Bang Theory and how we were created as far as the earth. Because what's interesting about development, it doesn't matter where you're from, we're all meant to have a vaginal delivery, let's say. We're all meant to make babies the same way. Now we've changed that up with IVF, with C-sections and so forth, and they will affect development, right? But at the same time too, we have to understand or appreciate. You don't have to be at my level, I never expected that, but at the same time you have to appreciate and know where development starts. The baby or your baby is not born with six-pack abs. They're not meant to have little baby biceps. They're not meant to have that. They're actually supposed to look like little Buddhas. The big old bellies, because again, there's 306 bones in the body versus the 206 that you and I have. So there's more skeletal movement as well as the body's responding. The fluid dynamics are different. You're at 85% fluid dynamics versus us about 60, 65. We've calcified, right? Are different. So we need different responses. So yes, I need muscles to move, but I don't need muscles to move, right? I work out daily, but I do work out movement lesson style versus, linear dynamics that most people work out, meaning I don't sit there and do this. I always have some form of rotation with what I'm doing. But again, my body needs stresses, and so to maintain the tonus, and that's also what I work with. And so I work with balance, I work with counterbalance. That being said, and this is why most people age pretty darn poorly, because they don't have rotation, they don't have the weight transfer, meaning the balance, counterbalance, they don't have these things. But with the baby, when they're born, right, the whole point of first of all is being exposed to gravity. It's the only non-optional force from the day you're born to the day you die, right? So what a baby is doing is they're like seaweed in water almost. They're meant to move these little things and whatever and go in and this and this, and they're playing with the dynamics of gravity. They're not going stretch up, stretch down, or what they say is a startle. Yeah, you don't want your baby to startle. You just want them to go in and out of these movements, what we call reflexes, because it's a respond to stimuli, right? And that's my next big presentation is the respond to stimuli that they've kind of overlooked is gravity, right? That's why babies like want to hang in between mommy and daddy and swing. They're going through and to eventually do a cartwheel and a somersault when they're doing their spinning milestones between 2.5 to 5. They're going through different relationships with gravity. Now, this is decreasing immensely thanks to the phone, right? Kids are getting exposed to a stationary aspects, but what the phone is a problem with, especially the Apple, which I have nothing but Mac, the gyroscopic implications to your body. A Mac will just, iPhone, especially an iWatch, don't wear a watch. Because there's a gyroscope in it, and we have a gyroscope, and it messes with our relationship to movement big time. So when a baby is first exposing to movements, they're not meant to hold things. They're not meant to, you don't want to engage muscle. But at the same time, too, they're meant to experience. So you don't want them to, whether it's considered low tone. But what that low tone is, it's like, oh, gravity's kicking my, I can't move. Sort of like when you come out of anesthesia, right? Anesthesia just it makes you so non-responsive, you can't respond to gravity. So you're just like, oh my gosh, what just happened to me? And then as the anesthesia gets out of you, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I can go to the bathroom. Whereas like even a minute ago, you were just like, I can't even think about getting out of bed. And that's what anesthesia does to you. So, but that's what genetics can do to a human body. Even something as simple as coloboma that I'm going to have to do a review on. And so when the system, the eyes alone, and this is why babies aren't meant to see at first, because they're meant to just experience these movements, and then when all of a sudden the eyes kick in, right? And it won't be binocular, it won't be with convergence, but they're looking at you, and when that kick in happens, right? The tonus completely changes in the body, and it changes all of these things. These are all qualities of movement that need to be looked at when a child is not doing well. This is why I always look at the vision, because if you change the vision, you change every movement in the human body. But we have to stop even considering rewarding that muscles are a fact of achievement. The achievement is that you can go in and out of the movement. If a baby is standing at 2 months, they're not really standing, they're just planking out. Their muscles are so engaged. They're just like, hi, I'm here. I don't want those life experiences in. That's all they know to do to respond to gravity. They're just like, oh, I'm gonna go against gravity, and then you wonder why they can't speak later and all this kind of stuff, because again, the system is just too taxed out. And the rotation part, I know people said they never considered it. Well, lie down right now and get up off the ground and do it without rotation. It's just physically impossible unless you're Cirque du Soleil. Eating with a spoon, fixing my hair, all of these kind of movements, all getting dressed have rotational responses. All functional movements, meaning movements that I need to do to live, have to include and do mathematically, physically, all that include rotation. When the human body cannot use rotation, they're going to have special needs. I don't care if you call it Parkinson's, a stroke, or cerebral palsy, or autism, or whatever. It's the first thing I look for, because I know that system is not responding the way it needs to for optimal development, period, the end. I don't care if you're 88, I don't care if you're 8 days old. It is the same physical equation. So I know a lot of people feel that's the other worst thing between muscles and movements, is they need a diagnosis. I have a torn ACL, or I can go on and on and on, or I have an HIE and this, that, and the other. Right now, guys, you have to look at it, but you can't put adult-based services or implementation or acts of motion versus acts of movement needed for a baby. A baby develops differently. But when they can't develop like babies, they will go after muscles, either for muscles for fail, what we consider low tone, floppy, or stiff. And those are my little antler. If I see a baby resorting to those as an act of motion versus for functional movement, my little antlers go up and go, what's going on? And we need to get a better answer. So if it's a visual hit, then we've got to have every answer we need for vision. Whether the child needs glasses or not, or whatever, we need to know every dynamic we can possible. Because the vision, just that, right? That's your whole tonus. That's me. If I can't do this, I'm not standing up and walking. Just that little movement. And then with the fine motor skills, again, the convergence, the convergence of the feet, all those kind of things happen. It's a different way of looking at it, but at the same time too, it's just the easiest way to look at it. Again, if you don't have rotation, that's where you need to go. So now it could be rotation in breath, it could be rotation in tummy time, it could be rotation in rolling over, but again, that's where you have to, it's just the easiest way to look at it. It's sort of like making bread without wheat. If you don't have wheat in the house, you're not making bread. And that's what development is. It really is just that simple. It's just a different way of looking at it, but we're waiting for a baby to tick off the boxes. But my boxes are 1 a month, every 4 weeks. Pretty easy, right? The government doesn't even start ticking off a box until 4 months. They have 5 milestones to my 12. And with those kind of gaps, and you're working around those gaps, this is what happens to people like Kima start coming in. All of a sudden now you're at the 10, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault whatsoever, but you're coming in at a 10 to 12 month level, and you're just like going, whoa. And to say that the eyes have nothing to do with development, the guy shouldn't be going to school. But again, he's there for structure of the eyes. He's not there for the development. You're assuming they do both. They don't. Most professionals are there for structure, for owies, for bacteria, for cuts, for this, that, failure to thrive. They're not there for development. They don't understand development. They're not taught it. It's not their fault. But that's where the gaps are. So we're waiting for these kind of professionals to step in and say, I know what you're supposed to do. And that's not there. Here you're getting a plan. But you have to understand to put adult-based muscles, to look at them like something that's standing at 2 months of age, right? No, I don't want that kind of tone. No baby stands at 2 months. Stop. Don't even encourage it. I don't care if you say they like it. Of course they like it. They'd like opium if you gave it to them. Don't. You don't know better, but I'm stopping it. And again, whether you listen to me or not, please just listen to the logic behind it. And also the logic of if these kind of things are kicking in, you have to do a home-based program. I know you didn't sign up for it. That's not what you thought. You thought you'd send your kid off to ballet. You have to do a home-based program. It is what it is, whether it's with me or somebody else. But if you want that continuity of care, it's just like taking your kid to soccer practice. You still have to go home and kick the ball with them, right? So we're just teaching you how to kick the ball at about a 2-month level versus at, a 10-year level. But if you want your child to do their best, your involvement is crucial because you're their parent. And they love you and they'll do anything for you. And in that way it works out too. Thanks.